Hi, I'm Bianca, and I'm a level 1 chef.
I'm Daniel, and I'm a level 2 chef.
Hi, I'm Remy, and I've been a chef for more than 15 years.
My favorite thing about this recipe are the onions. It gives it flavor and also a little bit of a crunch.
Maybe it's just me, but I like to add a little fruit to my grilled cheese. Kind of cuts off the savory, adds a little sweetness, and I have a sweet tooth like nobody's business, so this works for me.
I'm going to be making a grilled cheese sandwich that we find in many cafes in Paris. This is a perfect mix between crispy bread and melting cheese.
First up, the bread. I like to start with a nice country loaf. It is hearty, and it really adds some nice texture, makes it more of a full sandwich.
So I like the wheat bread over white bread because I'm trying to be health conscious.
The bread I'll be using is this beautiful homemade sourdough. The sourness of the dough will work very well with the richness of the cheese.
For cheese, I like to use American and cheddar. Cheddar gives it a bit of a more cheesy stretch to it, and you can't really go wrong with American. That's the way to go.
I have 3 different cheeses. We've got a white cheddar, a Gruyere, and a yellow sharp cheddar. The Gruyere is like a Swiss, but it's a little bit on the sweet side, and the sharp cheddar adds a nice little bit of punch.
We'll use 2 cheeses for this recipe. We're using Emmentaler and some Parmesan cheese. Emmentaler will be the bulk of the sandwich. We will slice it, it will melt with the heat, and the Parmesan cheese will just bring a little bit of saltiness.
I don't like the packaged slices. Doesn't look good, doesn't taste good, feels artificial and fake.
I don't mind using the American singles because it's easy.
I'm going to be putting some prosciutto cotto into my sandwich. I'll also be making a bechamel sauce. It's a traditional French milk and cheese sauce. I'll be making mine a little thick today. First, I'm going to melt some butter in my Dutch oven. I'm putting my burner on medium heat. I don't want to burn the butter.
My mom would put onions in everything, so she said, hey, why not put it in a grilled cheese too?
I like to add a little fruit to my sandwiches to add some sweetness, and today I'm using blackberries. I cut them in half just to increase the surface area. I think the more sugar and coating and juice that gets into everything ultimately enhances the flavor of the entire dish.
I whisk in some all-purpose flour. The flour is going to thicken the sauce. Put a pinch of salt. I gently put some warm milk, a little bit at the time, until all the milk is incorporated.
Okay, so it's on medium. Add in some olive oil, and what I like to do, I usually like to pick the pan up so the oil can get around the pan. So my onions are chopped. Time to fry them up. So maybe we cook them for about maybe 2 minutes or so. You don't want to overcook them. You still want a bit of a crunch.
So when I reach the consistency I want, I bring the whole thing to a boil, making sure it doesn't scorch. The whole thing has come to a boil. I can turn it off. And now I will put in my freshly ground peppercorn, some fresh nutmeg, my Parmesan cheese, and my Emmental. I can whisk the whole thing so the cheese can melt. Now my bechamel sauce is done.
I'm gonna macerate the blackberries. I'm gonna take some sugar and sort of generously coat the berries, toss them a little bit. So when you're done, you kind of have this little coating over all the berries. They look a little wet, and then you can set these aside for about 15 to 30 minutes, and they'll be good to go.
So these look about ready, so I'm gonna turn this off. They're nice and brown. Can't wait to eat them.
All right, I'm ready to build this sandwich. First, the bread.
I'm going in the widest part of the loaf so I can have a big sandwich.
I like to choose from the middle because, we want to stay as far from, what is this part of the bread called?
The butt end, which is very tiny, and I want to eat a nice sized sandwich that only the middle slices can provide me.
The middle is where it's at.
I like to keep about a ½ inch thick, something like this.
On my top layer, I'm going to poke a little hole. In that hole, I will put an egg yolk later on.
Now, onto the cheese. I like to cut the cheese thin, just because if you have too thick of a cut, it's not gonna melt all the way through. And we have 3 different kinds of cheeses, so I wanna make sure that they're all melting properly.
So I like to start off with American sliced cheese.
So I have my cheese, I have my bread. Now for the secret ingredient to nice golden bread is mayonnaise. It spreads a lot easier than butter, and it actually has a higher smoking point, so you get a nice crispy brown bread as opposed to a burnt toast. Yeah, so mayonnaise might sound a little weird to some people because it's mayonnaise, but if you give it a try, trust me, it'll taste phenomenal.
Okay, to assemble the sandwich, I'm going to start with a slice of cheese, then a slice of ham. I want to put the cheese close to the outside layer, so it gets closer to the heat and melts quicker.
So our one piece of bread, the mayo side is gonna be face down. That's what's gonna cook and brown the bread.
So I like to put layers of cheese, layers and layers of cheese. So this is the first layer. Now we're gonna add
Yellow
the cheddar.
followed by the Gruyere. We'll finish with the sharp cheddar.
So I'll start by putting my slices. I don't want anything over the edges. It would burn later on.
I don't really mind if the cheddar spills out on the sides because it's really about the center that counts. I got all my cheese down. Time to add the onions. Yeah, I'll just scrape them on.
I'm going to be putting some prosciutto color into my sandwich. The prosciutto should be cut very, very thin. It brings out more flavor.
And now I'm gonna take the macerated blackberries, and that is going to go on top.
So let's put the final piece of bread. Yes, that's a squish.
And now I take my room temperature butter and I spread it. I like butter, it brings a ton of flavors. It doesn't fight with the other flavors of the sandwich. And since I'm going to sear the sandwich on both sides, I also spread butter on the other side.
Now it's time for this grilled cheese to get grilled.
I am going to heat up a
Cast
cast
iron?
iron skillet. I like to use cast iron just because it looks nice.
I like using a non-stick pan. I don't really know if the flavor is any different with a non-stick pan, but I know that the cleanup is much easier. We're gonna add the butter, and we're gonna move the butter around because it looks good.
So I'm looking for the butter to bubble, but not turn brown. If it turns brown, then your pan is too hot.
You don't want to go too low, the sandwich will become soggy.
So first, you take your loaded end, you put that mayo side down,
I start searing my sandwich, whole side down.
and the top slice also mayo side down on the other side.
I guess now we just wait until it starts sizzling.
I heard that little searing noise, this is good stuff. The sandwich is ready when it's nice and golden brown on all sides.
This side is starting to brown a little bit, so I'm gonna take the side that has no toppings on it and I'm gonna flip it over the top here.
It's brown now, we can flip it. Oh!
So you wanna cook like, I would say 4 to 5 minutes per side.
So I usually like to cook one side for about 1 to 2 minutes. Cheese is not really melting, man.
The whole is looking good. I can see that my cheese is melting. The whole thing is getting warm on the inside. The bread is crispy. I can check the other side.
Waiting for the sandwich to be done is always the hardest part. Salivating. It smells so good.
Both sides are done. I will be spreading my bechamel, making sure I don't put anything on top of the whole. Now I'm going to put this whole thing under the broiler.
The cheese is draping over the sides here.
Now, hopefully the cheese melts. That's also the hard part.
My sandwich has just come out of the broiler. The cheese is perfect, it's melted. And now the final touch, I will put my yolk on top and go to the broiler just to warm it up.
That, my friends, is about done.
We're gonna turn off the burner. Now we're gonna take the sandwich from the pan.
We're back from the broiler. The egg yolk is warm but still runny. We're ready to slice it.
Let's see if it melted. Dag, it wasn't melted.
I like to cut diagonally. I think it looks better on the plate and you can shove the corners in your mouth like an animal.
And this is my grilled cheese sandwich.
And this is my grilled cheese sandwich.
This is my grilled cheese sandwich.
Let's go.
This is so good.
It's a good sandwich.
I'll give it a 5 out of 10. The cheese, you know, you win some, you lose some.
The bread, the cheese, the eggs, perfect.
It's just mind-blowing. This is a really good grilled cheese sandwich.
When making grilled cheese, there's a wide array of breads, cheeses, and extras you can use. Let's talk about the bread. Bianca used a store-bought whole wheat bread.
You know, trying to be fake healthy.
Daniel used a rustic peasant loaf, and Remy used a sourdough bread.
The sourness of the dough will work very well with the richness of the cheese.
Bianca's store-bought whole wheat bread is made with commercial yeast and other additives like molasses or honey, ascorbic acid, amylase, protease, and monodiglycerides.
And that's what's important.
These additives have anti-staling properties and contribute to the volume and sliceability of the finished bread. So Daniel chose a rustic peasant loaf, which is considered artisan bread.
This looks great and it tastes even better.
Artisan breads have 4 basic ingredients. That's the flour, water, salt, and yeast. Remy's sourdough is made of a levain pre-ferment of flour and water and a pinch of yeast. The yeast produces carbon dioxide, which through fermentation leavens the dough, while bacteria produces lactic acid that contributes to its signature tangy sour flavor.
The sourness of the dough will work very well with the richness of the cheese.
Bianca used a combination of American and cheddar cheese. Cheddar cheese is relatively hard and has more flavor than American depending on the aging process.
I love cheddar cheese. It smells so good.
American is a smooth and creamy processed cheese, mild and salty in flavor, with a medium firm consistency.
And you can't really go wrong with American.
Daniel used Gruyere cheese and white and yellow cheddar cheeses.
Variety is the spice of life.
Gruyere is a hard yellow cheese that is earthy, creamy, and nutty, becoming more assertive in flavor as it ages. These cheeses combined present a rich, creamy, buttery flavor profile.
Helps with the blackberries.
Remy used Emmental and Parmesan cheeses in his sandwich. Emmental is one of the best melting cheeses. Parmesan is made from unpasteurized cow's milk and has a gritty texture that is fruity and nutty in taste.
And the Parmesan cheese will just bring a little bit of saltiness.
Bianca sauteed onions to add to her sandwich.
I love onions.
During sauteing, the reaction and breakdown of sugar molecules in the onions caused them to caramelize, developing a sweet flavor that complemented the cheeses. Daniel chose to include macerated blackberries.
I know some people do apples or pear slices.
The sugar extracted water from the blackberries, softening their fibers and bringing out the sweetness. Remy added prosciutto, bechamel sauce, and an egg yolk to his dish. Bechamel sauce is a combination of equal parts of fat and flour blended together to form a roux.
A lot of time it's used in pasta dishes.
The addition of an egg yolk in Remy's sandwich gave it a rich flavor and a layer of velvety texture. Bianca used a non-stick frying pan. Daniel and Remy used a cast iron skillet.
I like using cast iron, it's convenient, it's pretty, has a very good heat retention.
And Remy finished off her sandwich under a broiler. Frying pans can heat up extremely fast due to a reduced thickness and shallow design. Since Bianca cooked her sandwich on high heat, her bread became fully toasted before the heat was able to completely melt her cheese.
Maybe next time.
Cast iron skillets have a high volumetric heat capacity, meaning once heated, they stay hot. They also expel a lot of heat energy from their surface. Therefore, foods cook evenly and can create a good all-around sear. Bianca added butter to her pan, creating a surface area with creamy brown buttery notes. Heating it for too long can burn the butter and make it acrid in taste. Butter can also unfortunately lead to oily sandwiches. Daniel smeared mayonnaise on his bread before adding it to a heated skillet.
To be completely honest, there's personal preference.
The addition of mayonnaise does not leave the bread oily on the surface. It creates a barrier allowing for a more even heat penetration and a better handheld sandwich. When making grilled cheese, there are countless ingredients you can use to make a delicious sandwich. Just make sure you're taking your cooking medium and methods into consideration.